morning. This is the Be the Solution podcast with my guest today, Ryan Spak. And I am your host, Maria Quattrone. And I am excited to talk to Ryan today, all things about building and construction and relationships. And one of the things I was thinking about this morning is mastering your craft. Mastering your craft. Doing the same things over and over and over. You create the perfect scenario by mastering your craft. And because you master your craft, when the right opportunity presents itself, you're prepared.
That is a truth. I think to any business, I think to anyone's success in life, that is a truth. We have a development that we actually just finished. And when we were the winners of purchasing that particular property, a lot of my colleagues congratulated us as being lucky. And the reality is that it was not luck. We knew the land, we knew the property, we knew the site, we knew the zoning, we understood the base marketplace, we understood the multiple exit strategies that were possible. There was no need to run a pro forma. There was no need to debate whether we should move forward with this particular property or not. It went on the market at 3 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock, we had an offer that the owner couldn't refuse. And by Monday, we had it under agreement, and within 6 months, we had it, purchased. And today, there's 2 buildings that sit on that site with close to 60 units, both mixed-use commercial. It's an inclusionary housing development with deed-restricted affordable housing inside the apartment complex, gym, dog park, green roofs. And, my colleagues thought we were lucky, and it had nothing to do with luck. It had to do with the fact that we had done that type of project on that type of land before and knew the submarket really, really well.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we can put it to, let's say, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. There was no luck involved.
No.
It was the drills and the practice and the mastery that happens when nobody else is looking.
And they saw, I'm not going to pretend like I understand the complete mindset of Howie Roseman and his team and the coaching staff, but they had gotten close and they saw what didn't work. And so because they knew the base model of what they wanted to accomplish, they were able to make tweaks real easy. And what seemed like luck, or what seemed like opportunities that no one else really had, they put themselves in a position to be able to have those opportunities because they were so close before, and they were able to look at themselves and say, well, that didn't work. This is what worked. Let's change this piece in the machine and make this adjustment. And they did that to multiple parts of their team and had a significantly better team this year than they've had in the past.
Significantly better.
Yeah.
We call it tiny hinges swing big doors. And when you look at that in your business, we look at that in our business, Ryan, of selling a massive amount of listings in high volume. It's based on the tweaks, the tiny hinges that swing big doors, the things we do that are behind the scenes that nobody knows about. And not because they don't know about it, it's because it's not shiny and it's not sexy. And you got to get your hands dirty. And a lot of, I would call it blood, sweat, and tears over decades of work.
I have a friend of mine in the music business who was just nominated for his first Grammy this year. And what seems like an overnight success has been 25 years in the making.
That's right.
Yeah. And so here he is sitting in the Grammys, waiting to see if he wins an award. And simultaneously, another song that he produced was hitting number 4 in the world marketplace for downloads. So here is like all this success. It seems like it is happening overnight, but it is this compound of knowing what he does well, tweaking what wasn't working, and continuing to just pound this idea of his goal along with these tweaks for 25 years for him. That's how long it took.
That's how long it takes. It takes it really does take quite some time. People would say, I used to hear this 10,000 hours. I think it takes more than 10,000 hours.
Well, I think it takes more than 10,000 hours to get to a level of success that you are comfortable with, but to know your craft, to get to that baseline that we were just talking about. Yeah, I think it takes that long to try and figure out your baseline. Look for
The baseline. That's right. The baseline, but not the mastery.
Correct. If you look at the trajectory of our company, the first 6 or 7 years, we did the same thing, that most small investors and developers do, the triplexes and the quads and the single family one-offs. And we had bought a commercial mixed-use building on 52nd Street relatively early in the lifespan of our company. But it wasn't until like 6 or 7 years into this that all of a sudden the mindset shifted, the mission shifted, the type of developments that we currently do became the idea of what we wanted to be working on, where we wanted to put our time, our energy, our capital. And, I look back on the first 6 or 7 years as the 10,000 hours. That was the baseline. If those hadn't happened, no way we get to the stuff that we're working on today. And so, the first real partnership that we did with a nonprofit organization that was real estate driven, it took 3 years to negotiate. The one that we are about to sign on the dotted line for has taken 6 months. And so, you look at those scenarios and you go, well, why did it take 6 months? Well, because the first one took 3 years.
You knew what they wanted. You know what they didn't. You know what they didn't want.
We also had an idea of how to approach the subject.
Right.
We understood where their fears,
their mindset.
Yeah, we understood their mindset. That doesn't happen without the first 10,000 hours. It just doesn't.
Don't you find it? You mentor. You have a group, West Philly.
Yep.
I've been to it. I was just thinking about that. I haven't been to it in a while. I'm going to make an effort to come out next month. But
love that.
You get a lot. And I remember the one I went to, actually. I thought it was really great, the way it unfolded. But you get a lot of new people. And how do you express to the new people really what it takes?
Yeah. So, I've been really, really, really lucky to be welcomed into the Jumpstart community. My daughter, Charlotte, who I affectionately call Charlie, she is 9 years old, and I know how long I've been a part of Jumpstart because when I spoke at Jumpstart for the first time 3 days before she was born. So my anniversary with Jumpstart as a program and my daughter's birthday are very, very much aligned. Jumpstart is an amazing program. The idea that someone with experience in real estate can help those in a community understand how to do development so that they can own a part of their community and benefit from the improvements that are happening in that neighborhood. The idea behind Jumpstart having a loan program that supports those folks is the key to the success of that program, because someone who doesn't look like me, who doesn't have the relationships that I have, usually doesn't have access to capital. And so when you take the mentorship and the learning and you combine it with capital access, all of a sudden you have an opportunity for a whole group of people to get into an economic game that most times they don't have the opportunity to do. And that really intrigued the hell out of me. And it really intrigued me for the idea that gentrification doesn't necessarily need to be bad or looked at as bad if the community owns the benefits of the gentrification. And so a couple of years ago after COVID, I was given the opportunity to take over the Jumpstart West Philly program. And we have big plans for that. It hasn't been everything that I wanted it to be, but what I started to realize was the amount of mentors that I had from the Jumpstart Germantown program and the amount of people in the West Philly program and the amount of just general folks who call me for advice. I realized there was too many of them and that they were asking a lot of the same questions and that we needed to start putting them in the same room together so they could meet each other. They could create their own community in and of themselves. And I start out with the idea of what is it that you want from your investment goals in real estate? Trying to just pay for your cell phone bill on a monthly basis? Or are you trying to work for 9 months and to do a turnover of a flip property and walk away with $25,000 in profit because you want to buy yourself a new car? Where is your goal? And then what is the time that you have, right? You have family, you have your job, you have other obligations in your life. If you can combine the amount of time you can invest in real estate with the capital, with the idea of what you want from any profitability that you get, you can start to figure out where you want to start in this business, and then just come to Jumpstart and allow the program to help support you in that goal, and find a mentor that understands what those goals are and how to get from point A to point B. And I have loved every minute of being a part of that program for all of those reasons.
It's helped, supported a lot of people.
My favorite story is this woman in her 60s, retired Philadelphia school teacher, lives on a tiny little street off of Girard Avenue. And in the 80s, she was gifted a side yard lot from the city of Philadelphia for $1. And she owned her home. And what was happening around her was all of these 3-story quad apartment buildings was happening on her block. And so she thought about selling the parcel of land. And then she heard about Jumpstart and she became my mentee. And I helped guide her through getting HDC to give her access to the land so that she could build on it instead of it remaining a side yard. And today there is a fully functioning triplex with 3 2-bedroom apartments in it that she owns all on her own, no investors. I helped land her financing, right? It's her credit and her work, but I helped guide the situation. And now you have this woman who has this massive asset next to her home.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. It's absolutely
beautiful,
it's awesome.
Beautiful story, because this is probably her. Well, I'm sure as a school teacher, she gets a pension, but which is great. But that's a generational wealth.
Yep. 100%.
She's able to build. That's why the first step is we want to get people into home ownership.
Yep.
And getting people into home ownership is really important part of what we do as brokers. But I want to talk about right now, Ryan, how do developers do deals? I talk to so many people that are in the industry, and so many people still are sitting on the sidelines. I know that you aren't.
Yeah.
And you found a way.
We're also not really buying a whole lot of properties. So a lot of our projects that we have in the pipeline are partnerships. And so those type of partnerships are with assets that are incredibly distressed, or assets that the institution or owner just can't unlock.
So you found a way to still do business by being the solution in your space.
Yes.
By partnering with others, by helping, assisting, and guiding situations that are in bad shape for a variety of reasons I could imagine.
Yeah.
And still do business today.
I'll give you a really good example of one that we already accomplished. It was negotiated from 2018 to 2020. It was the first one that we ever really did like this. And that was nonprofit owned 18 buildings in Strawberry Mansion. They had bought it in 2012 for $1 and all the debt. And if you looked at the capital stack, once this nonprofit was done with this transfer, they had $1 million of private capital with $750,000 of state funding, and then almost $4 million of public debt. It was three of this capital stack in terms of the debt on this property. The problem was, on a good day, the whole thing was worth $3 million. So they were massively underwater, massively. What made it worse was, of the 47 apartments in the 18 buildings, one building had collapsed. So there goes 3 apartments. And of the other 44 units, only 8 of them were occupied. It was a literal
Bloodbath.
It was a bloodbath, yeah. And all the while, these were deed restricted affordable housing units where the deed restriction was about to roll off. It was about to end. And so the affordability in a neighborhood that was being highly gentrified, that the whole purpose of these buildings being built was going to cease to exist. And we were able to bring on Bryn Mawr Trust as a bank, which doesn't exist anymore. And we were able to negotiate with the state funders and with the redevelopment authority who held the remaining public debt. And we were able to save all 17 buildings. The 18th building that had collapsed, we sold to a developer who rebuilt it as a triplex, market rate triplex. The other 17 buildings, we extended the deed restriction 25 years for affordability and came into this whole thing knowing that this was going to be a 20-year play, that we were going to save it, salvage it, put 10-year money on this thing, and that at the end of 9 or 10 years, we were going to refinance this and redo all of the properties with the proceeds. We didn't over leverage the debt. We did it just enough to get it to salvage what was there. And the nonprofit still owns 19% of the whole development.
So they were able to stay in the deal.
Everybody wins. And
Everybody wins.
And so we, is it perfect? Hell no. Absolutely not. Not even close.
And was it easy? No.
No, it's not easy. No. And if you
just in case anybody listening to this is the easy stuff.
If you speak to my general counsel, Jen Tittenfoss, over at Royer Cooper, she will tell you that her first reaction when I told her we were doing this deal and how we were going to structure it, she told me I was out of my damn mind. And now here we are, we're in negotiations for our 6th or 7th version of something like this. And
rinse and repeat.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. Now they all look the same and they all have very different problems, but the concept is the same, right? That baseline is still the same, right? You have an asset has unrecognized value. You have an institution, nonprofit, government agency, or owner who doesn't know how to tap into that value. And we, as a partner, recognize that they have to understand the process and understand and trust that we are their partner and that we're there for the right reasons. And then we have to make sure that we show them the math and that their value in their asset is actually recognized. And we don't try and screw them out of a single dollar of what the value of that asset is. And if we can get past that threshold, the rest of this is a simple real estate deal.
Goes back to what we started talking about earlier before we got on, relationships.
Yep. It's
building relationships.
It's all relationships. 100%.
Building relationships, doing the right thing. So being the solution, being in integrity, even when nobody else is looking, because we know.
Yeah, I have a business coach, Emily Golden, who I absolutely adore. I don't think in my life I'd be where I am right now if it wasn't for her. And her entire premise with me for the last several years has been that quote of be in integrity. Where is your line? And you need to walk it straight. And it is something that is always floating around in the back of my mind. And so when these real estate deals are happening, and you're sitting across from a board of directors who is scared half out of their mind and reads the Inquirer on a daily basis that real estate developers are fiends and the enemy, right? Because that's the temperature in the room. Yeah, that's the temperature.
Bags.
Yeah. When the initial impression that they have of you when you walk in the door, your entire space initially is to overcome that challenge. And I recognize that right out of the gate. Right out of the gate, we have to beat that whole entire notion down. And that if we can learn that we are there for the right reasons, which is, hey, we are a for-profit developer. We're here to make money, but we can also do communal good. Then there's a deal to be made. And then the rest of it just turns into a real estate deal, right? What's the capital stack? What's your return? What's your debt service coverage ratio? Can you finance this thing? Can you make the property its highest and best? And if you can't, into a functional place, and have a much longer term vision for it. And putting that puzzle together is the best part of my job.
Well, that's the part of it, right? Like, what inspires you individually? What inspires you?
Give me the most challenging thing that someone has told me I can't do. That will get me up in the morning. And that's the part. If it is, there's a reason that my company has never gotten into, let's build 70 townhomes that all look the same. Like, I can never see my company being that type of developer. And my colleagues who do that, and I get it, but I would lose complete sanity. I'd be so damn bored. Give me the complicated project, right? Right now, we're working on a building in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's 40,000 square feet. It was built in the 30s as apartments. It turned into dorms in the 60s. It got gutted in the late 90s and turned into a 125-bed dormitory.
Oh, boy.
We're turning it back into the apartments that it was in the 30s. Give me the complicated deal. Right? Give me the one where the elevator is from 1931, right? And we want to save it.
I love it.
Right? Give me the parking lot that has 12 spaces and we need to squeeze 21 spaces out of it so that we can meet the zoning requirement. Right? Give me the complicated deal where the building was owned by Albright College and Albright College was having financial issues and you're negotiating with a board of directors who just fired the president of the college. Give me the complication. That, to me, I want the story. And that drives me in this thing. The more complicated, the more fun that it is for me.
Well, I think there's a special talent that comes with that. And when you are looking at that puzzle, like, it's exciting puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
Although, probably lose a few hairs along the way.
I don't know.
You got pretty good hair there, though.
I'm doing okay.
I got some great grays going.
Oh, there's grays. I've heard it. My daughter told me that I'm old. So.
Oh boy. She doesn't know what old is.
I get it. Yeah.
So, I had a conversation with some people last night. What keeps you up at night?
If you would have asked me this question 3 years ago, it was losing key staff members at the same time that the development project that we were working on's budget went from a total of 7.7 million to 9.8 million pretty much overnight.
Because of the change in
cost
and rate?
Yep, change in cost. And the rate didn't really impact us as much. I have believed for a very long time that the interest rate environment was going to change.
Right.
Before it actually did. If you would have asked me in 2020 after COVID happened, what I thought was going to take place, I would have told you that interest rates would be exactly where they are. Like, when we were underwriting deals 3 years ago, we were looking at perm rates at 6 and 6.5% on our performance. I anticipated what's happening for a multitude of reasons why, but
so it's interesting. You anticipated it, but 85% of others thought that the gravy train would continue to go on forever. Or is that delusion? Is that just delusional?
No, I think that it's sentimental more than it is anything else. History has a tendency to repeat itself, but it never looks the same.
That is true.
And so, if you look at real estate cycles going all the way back to the 1800s, unless there's some cataclysmic event like a world war, what usually ends up taking place is a real estate cycle is 18 3/4 years, something along those lines. Might be 18 and a half, might be 19, but it's really around the same. And if you look back, the real estate in the 80s and the real estate base crash we had in the 2008, 2009 era, they were about 18 and a half years apart from each other. And so if you do the generic math on this, 2007, you knew there was a problem in the real estate industry. If you go back and you read articles, you knew there were problems.
2006, actually.
2006, you probably
I did, but I'm boots on the ground, right? I inventory stacking and stacking and stacking. And I keep it out to everybody, stop. Drop, adjust the price now, adjust the price now.
Yeah.
Cutting one off at a time. But
yeah. So I say all of that to say, I don't think, no one can actually determine exactly when a state-based financial crisis happens, but I think it is coming. I think we know it's coming. If you watch the CMBS market, you can tell it's coming. If you watch the articles that you get every morning from Philly Biz Now, you can tell it's coming. Just read between the lines. You can tell it's going to happen. But if you went back to 2019 when things were so good, the minute COVID crashed the economy and the government started flooding the economy with capital, the only thing that can happen when you flood an economy with cheap money is inflation. It's the only thing that could happen. It's economics 101. And so when that happens, to drive down inflation, the Fed's going to increase interest rates. And with my thought process that there was going to be a big real estate-based crash, in 2020 through 2021, we refinanced every project that we had. Every building we had, even if it didn't need to be refinanced, we refinanced in the 10-year money. Even if the interest rate was higher at 10 years than it would have been at 5 years, we did it into 10-year money.
Smart.
And so, so you asked me about staying up at night. If you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been that. It would have been, hey, I'm short-staffed and a hole that I need to figure out. Lucky for me, we control both the development process and the construction process. And so it's not like we have to drag a third-party GC into the mix to make changes quickly. That made us very nimble. We were able to drive a $1.8 million hole down to $236,000. Took a lot of pain and energy, but that's what kept me up. If you ask me what keeps me up right now, it's two things from a business standpoint. One would be expectations, right? What are other people's expectations, other partners' expectations, my expectations? And the other thing is the idea that if every project we have in the pipeline happens over the next 2 or 3 years, my company doubles in size. What does that look like? How does that feel? What are my employees doing? How do they respond to me? How do I communicate? That is something that I have not figured out just yet.
That's interesting. Interesting thing to think about. What does it look like? How does it feel? Because life is about the way we feel. We're chasing a feeling.
Always.
We're chasing this feeling we had somewhere, some time ago.
Yeah.
And we want it back. We're trying to find that feeling back.
Yeah. So, what does it look like right now? I think I have the kind of a really, really, really good team. But, one of the things that I've asked my construction and development project manager on, who's relatively new to my team, is you have autonomy to figure out the systems of communication for you to quarterback the construction manager in the field and how you communicate with me. I don't care what the system looks like. I want you to think about what you're going to do when there's 2 other people underneath you and how they're going to communicate with you. What's that system look like over the next 6 months? And let's try something. And so yesterday, he's 3 months into the job. Yesterday, he showed me something that he's trying, an application that he's put out there, and he built this system within the application, and he showed it to me for 5 minutes, and I went, great, let's test it. Let's see if it works. Because I don't know what this looks like. I've never been here before. And so, this is all new to me. And that is, I don't mind new, but the idea of failing when we're so close to this that I've wanted us to be for the last couple of years, that idea keeps me up at night. And so what's it all look like? How do they communicate with each other? How do I make sure that the I's are getting dotted, the T's are getting crossed, that we don't lose our relationship so that the product is no different? And we've been in business 15 years as a property manager. You go on Yelp, we have a 4.8 star review. You go on Facebook, it's 5 stars. You go on Google, I think it's 4.5 stars. I don't know a lot of property managers that have that high of rating being in business for as long as we've been in. That's a lot of people that have lived under our roof. A lot of people we've had the opportunity to piss off. And so, if we grow in size, does does our customer service experience change? Does it get better? What's it look like? And so, yeah, that's definitely something that, like, when the world is quiet, that's what I'm thinking about.
Good stuff.
I think so. Well, we're going to find out. We'll do one of these
Well,
again.
I think it's important to think about those things. And I don't know that a lot of do. I think you're running so fast sometimes that, like, where you run into,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does help that a good amount of our projects are not set, not like we've got all the equity or we have all the financing set up, but there's a play, right? Like, I know there's a project in Wilmington, Delaware, right? I know we're about to file zoning permits on a project in Reading. I know there's 2 more coming in Reading. I know that there's one in West Philly that we're looking at. And there's 2 others that we're in, like, preliminary negotiations on. And so, like, I can see the landscape to some degree, right? And so from that perspective, if I decided to stop, if all of those landed and I decided to stop finding new stuff to do, we've got enough work for the next 2.5, 3 years. If we can finance it and find the equity for it and keep moving. And so then the question is, well, what's the systems to make all that work? And if my company continues to develop and build for itself and do the property management, we're running 3 companies pretty much all at the same time.
Exciting times ahead, Ryan.
It's not boring.
No, lots of moving parts,
No.
lots of challenges, lots of headaches. But hey, I say this all the time in real estate to agents and people. I said, well, change your vocabulary. You don't have to do anything. You get to do it.
Yeah.
So you get to do this. And that's a mindset shift about
100%.
getting versus having, and being grateful, because you'd be digging ditches out in the rain and the cold and doing some other BS stuff.
I had a janitorial business before I had this. I remember what that was like when my employees didn't show up, and I was cleaning hair salons at 3:00 in the morning, right? Like, I remember what that was like. And so, yeah, I do not, as painful as this business can be, as frustrating, as aggravating as this, 15 years in, I still want to be in this business.
Yeah.
So
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Keep on being the solution.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up today, Ryan, I have 2 questions for you. Number 1.
Sure.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. I'm going to say my simple guilty pleasure is hot chocolate, especially from Franklin Fountain. I will go out of my way for a Franklin Fountain hot chocolate. But I think my, like, lifelong guilty pleasure is 80s movie memorabilia.
Oh.
Which is now translated into life-size versions of that memorabilia.
Oh boy.
So I am.
That's funny.
I'm a big 80s TV show, 80s movie person, and I love the cars and the vehicles from those movies and TV shows. And there was
like
a
the
TV
Dukes
show,
of Hazzard?
like the Dukes of Hazzard. So one of those TV shows is the A-Team. And the A-Team has the van that is so iconic with the red stripe up the side. But this vehicle in that show was a white 84 Corvette.
Nice.
I've been blessed with the ability to buy one of those.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
My obsession with movie memorabilia has gone from little models in my office to real life models.
That's cool.
So,
I love that.
That's a guilty pleasure.
That's a great guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so this personal question for you.
Sure.
What are you, not nobody else, no kids, no wife, you most excited about for your personal future?
Personal. 5 years ago, I was in a really nasty bike accident that broke a whole lot of my body that I was very private about. And although I'm still in pain from that on a daily basis, I am on the other side of that. And what I'm capable of physically is kind of awesome today, looking back on what transpired. And so personally, I'm excited about that prospect. I'm in better physical shape today at 44 than I was when I was 32 years old.
Wow. I didn't know that.
On the professional side, I'm excited for my company to start doing things outside of Philadelphia.
Yes,
It's been a
I
dream,
know.
but not because I don't like what's happening in Philly. It's been a dream of mine to be able to say my company's large enough and strong enough that we can do something outside of our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that to me is, it's like an award on a wall, having the ability to be able to pull that off and do it successfully and have the relationship.
Processes with the right processes and systems and people.
There's a lot to look forward to in that regard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been a really fantastic conversation, Ryan. Thanks for coming on the Be the Solution podcast, and I wish you the best in all your future endeavors, and good luck with the doubling of your company.
Thank you.
I know what will happen because you're determined. You're a determined human.
Thank you. Appreciate that, love. Thank you very, very much. I appreciated being here, and the invitation put a massive smile on my face. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.